Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and so that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Today's date is Friday, April 26, 2024. Got a pretty quick show today. Just wanted to go over a couple things. We'll talk a little bit about the draft, and then we will finish up on our brackets for the best team, non-champion team over the last 30 years or whatever. So we'll do the semis and the finals. So with that said, let's get going. So last night, first round of the draft, Marv got drafted number 4 to Arizona. Obviously thought like that's a really good pick for him. Kyler, I've never always been 100% sold on Kyler. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think some people, completely dismiss him a little bit, that he's not as good as, he was to win the Heisman. But I think other people like put him way too up, like, he's like the next great thing. But so I think he's okay. I think, having somebody like Marv is a good addition for him. So we'll see what happens. I do think that, plus they have Paris. So, just your thoughts on Marv going to Arizona.
Yeah, I like the move. I mean, Marv's the best receiver in the draft. Anytime someone, as a receiver skill position can go top 5, that means obviously that they're valued very highly in the draft. So I think Marv brings a skill set that's different than all the other receivers. I know people like Neighbor, speed, but Marvin's a really fast guy. They clocked him in at 22 miles an hour this year, and he just does everything well. I mean, is he amazing at any one thing? Probably. I mean, balance, catching, like he has great hands. He can make unbelievable catches, but he's just good at everything when it comes to being a receiver. And he's going to be, sneakily, he's going to be great within the first couple years. So it's a huge pickup. I like his pairing with Kyler. I think Kyler is a good quarterback. Like you said, I mean, he is not, a top 5 quarterback in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but what he could do is he can keep plays open. I think Marv, as we saw against like Georgia, he understands, how to, when plays break down, how to find open space and keep moving to get a completion. So I think that's something that's a good pairing for the two of them together. But I mean, you're never going to complain when one of your guys goes top 5, and especially when they're not, a quarterback, tackle, defensive end, corner. So when it's a position that kind of is viewed a dime a dozen in the NFL, it's really cool when they can go that high. So definitely proud of him. I think he's going to be great in the NFL. We know that, already he's a seasoned professional when it comes to how he approaches the sport. So I don't see any reason, 6'4", 200 something pounds, what he already does. I don't see any reason why he won't be great in the NFL, but time will tell. Wish him the best. Don't think he'll be a bust, but definitely we'll see.
Yeah. Definitely agree with everything you said. I think that just on the draft in general, first round, I mean, I won't lie. I couldn't not stay up. I made it about halfway through the first round. So I did. It's crazy to think of that. The first like 14 picks were all offensive players. That's nuts. It's crazy to think of that. Basically, all 6 quarterbacks that were known coming into this draft were all taken immediately.
I can't believe that. I don't know. I only think 3 of them are first round talents, to be honest with you.
I mean, you always know how that stuff goes. Is usually when one goes and then the second one goes, then you kind of have the run on the rest of them. But usually you have like 1 or 2 that drops and at least into the second round or late first round. Sometimes maybe even to the third round.
that's like expected to go into the like every year they like kind of like people predict like well once they start going they're all going to go and it never happens. There's always somebody that just falls. And it's like this year no, they literally all went like it was crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe that Atlanta took Penix and I like Penix, it just and then Bo Nix to go to Denver and I figured it with all the everybody saying that JJ was going to get drafted in the first round. I figured he was going to go, but it just was kind of like
Looks like May.
New England, which
Oh, that's a
wasn't.
good pick. That's
Yeah, I
good.
wasn't surprised with that one. Like I know a lot of people thought like JJ would go there at 3. I'm like I don't know. I think Drake May is more their guy, but like like that wasn't really a surprise to me. Um,
So what was the Vikings number? Where did JJ get drafted?
what was it like 11th? I think it was
Uh,
11th.
yeah, that sounds fine. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to
I like
spend.
Harbaugh's pick. He took Joe Alt at out of Notre Dame with his pick. I thought that was a good pick for them. So I thought the first round was pretty good. All things considered. And I figured that Marv would go in the top 5, but it was nice to see that he actually did.
Mm-hmm, for sure. 10th pick was JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I knew it was like right in there. I just couldn't remember where. And what's his nice I can't say his last name. The tackle from Penn State. I think he went like 13th or 14th. So he got drafted really high too. So you know it's good to see all these guys go on to their next lives and wish them all the best luck except when they're playing the Browns.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That was the first round. Second, third rounds tonight, and then we will have the rest of the draft tomorrow. So I'll be paying a little bit of attention to some of that stuff. It just with not so it was weird with not so many Buckeyes going this year, and then obviously the Browns have basically not had any picks like you know forever. It feels like now that it's just something that for whatever reason this year I just didn't have the same type of interest into watching it. It
What do you
just
think, Mike Hall? Michael Hall's the other one going tonight, or you think Cade Stover gets taken too?
I think probably just Hall, but even that I wouldn't be surprised even if he maybe slips till early tomorrow. I don't know. It's just kind of weird to like kind of gauging where he's at. I mean, I've seen people say that he's definitely a third rounder, and I've seen people say that he's a day 3 guy. So I don't know. I think he'll probably go at some point tonight. It's weird. Like usually with Buckeyes, is there's just so many of them there. It's like kind of like with the quarterbacks. It seems like when one goes, like they start going in like bunches because like, oh yeah, Ohio State's got a bunch of good players here, and it's just like you're just not going to get that effect. It seems like that this year. So I don't know. I don't think Cade's going tonight. I think he's a tomorrow guy.
Tommy's a day 3 guy.
Tommy's definitely a day 3 guy. I mean, even parts of me might be thinking I think somebody will take Tommy, but I'm also kind of like on the fence. Like I hope he gets taken. It's just he's just like one of those guys. Like I think he's like really good. I think he'd be a great pro. It's just weird once you get into day 3 that like guys you think are definitely gonna get taken, they don't. And, so he's gonna be on an NFL roster. I don't know if it's gonna be through the draft or not. And
Right. And then what? Steele, Matt Jones, and Proctor. Any of them get drafted? You think? Maybe
I think
Proctor.
one of them might slide through, and Proctor might be able to slide through. Maybe Steele, but I think they're probably all going to be undrafted. Maybe one of them ends up getting picked. I don't know. We'll see. But like I could see Proctor going. It's just with his health over all the years, I think that he's a better player than is probably on tape, just because he just didn't play a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's an athletic freak, and I think we said it 2 or 3 years ago. Like he's just an anomaly because he could be a first round pick or he could be, undrafted free agent. And I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards like he's a 7th rounder, but like
I
you
guess
said, when you
he,
get to that point, it's a crapshoot because there's so many guys out there. Then
yeah, and you just don't know where people get slotted on different draft boards, and at that point, it's completely needs. If somebody thinks they don't need, you don't know if safety's not needed or whatever. It just, you just don't know where that stuff all falls and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right, for moving on from the draft. All right, so let's finish up with our brackets. So we agreed on the official seeding of these last four. So 2019 is we picked as our number one team. 1998 and 2015, a little back and forth between the two of them, but we're in agreement that 98 will be 2 and 15 will be 3. 98 had just probably even though Michigan State was both their downfalls, 98 probably just had a much more consistent season than 2015. Um, you know, and then 05 will be 4. So 05 had the worst record out of the bunch. So, they will be the 4th. So let's start with 1-4. So 19 versus 05. So what do you think?
I think it's close because 19, I mean, at the end of the day, like what killed them against Clemson was they couldn't stop explosives, So, I mean, that's what really got them. And then they had issues, of course, navigating the red zone in that final game of the season. So, I mean, that's a damn good team in 2005, right? Like, they got Ted Ginn, they got Santonio Holmes, they got Pittman. So there's explosive possibilities. They have a good line. You still got Sims and Mangold. Barton's there at that time. So they got a good line. So, I mean, Chase Young isn't eating all day long. He might be able to get to Troy a couple times. But, I mean, with that said, I do think top to bottom, 19th roster is better. And I just think that they can squeak out a win in that game. I mean, Dobbins is a good running back. He's gonna have moments against 2005. It's gonna be tough. I mean, it's tough sledding because you're going against really good linebackers there, really physical secondary. I just don't know. I don't think Troy Smith is picking apart downfield, Okuda, Fuller, and Arnett all day long. So I think the slimmest of margins, but I do have 2019 winning this game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I was going with 2019 too. I think where you kind of look at, it is a lot closer than I think a lot of people would think. That I mean, that 90 or that 05 team is just really, really, really good in a lot of spots. I think that though, where you really start matching them up, I think that probably, the 19 defensive line and the 05 offensive line are a wash with each other. I think the 05 offensive line's pretty good, but Chase is going to. I agree with you, but I think he is going to make plays. He's going to be very difficult to man up with. Where when you reverse it, I do think that the 19 offensive line does have an advantage over the 05 defensive line.
I would agree with that for sure.
I think that they would really be able to lean on them to really between Fields and Dobbins. I think there will be lanes in that, running the ball against that defense. But obviously those 05 linebackers are really, really good. And so is the secondary. I do think that, probably Fields probably has there's probably a slight advantage with the 19 receivers against the defensive backfield of 05, even though I think it's fairly close. But on the other side of it, I do think that Ohio State's secondary, the 19 secondary, probably is just a little bit better equipped against the 05 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love Troy and stuff like that, I think he doesn't have the necessary touch, I think, to really hurt. That's when you just know that like his big shots are down the field. Like I think they can guard against that, and Fuller's just a top safety. Where when you think in reverse, like Nate Sally just wanted to kind of rip people's heads off, and I think that's exploitable, in spots where I think Fields has advantage with the receivers that he has. So I agree with you there that I do think 19. I think it's a good game. It's close. I mean, that Tressel team wasn't getting blown out by any stretch of imagination. And Ryan Day tends to, seize up a little bit in big games. So I mean, I'm saying it's probably like a I mean, we never decided to do scores on theirs, but I could see somewhere it's probably upper 20s to lower 20s,
Mhm.
somewhere in there. That's what I
Yeah,
would
I
say.
mean, it's definitely a one score game. I could see like a 28-24 type of game, something like that. Of course, Tressel's going to kick field goals. So, um, yeah, I agree with you there. And I will say, because I didn't really elaborate, I said, Clemson, the undoing was the big play. A lot of that was short, big plays, the things that were lost at the linebacker. And I just don't really think that was really a part of Ohio State's game in 2005. Of course, you might have something like Pittman breaking something at the
Yeah.
line of scrimmage, but it
And,
was
and Troy could. And Troy could, if something would break. I mean, Troy wasn't a scrambler, but if things broke down, he could make people pay.
sure.
So some of that stuff I could see. He was just never a guy that he's not like a Justin Fields or a Terrell Pryor, like, where it was just like, he makes one guy miss and he's taking it 60 yards to the house. Like, I mean, I don't know if that Trevor Lawrence play happens. I mean, it still surprises me that Trevor Lawrence play it did happen. Like, I know Trevor Lawrence is a pretty good athlete. It's just, it's still a little mind-boggling to me that he was able to get loose like he did. But with Wade out of the game at that point, they were just, you know they just had, you know they gave up stuff like that throughout this whole period. They've given up stuff like that. I mean, that's the one thing that the '05 Buckeyes definitely actually have an advantage on, that their linebackers were always in position, to make plays for the most part. So
Right, right.
you know I do. Yeah, 19 is a slightly probably more talented, and I think that ultimately they end up pulling that one out.
All right.
All right, and then the other one is 98 and 15. So go ahead.
I have this one actually just comes out of two factors for me because I think both these teams are really good. They have great offenses. Well, no, 98 has a great offense. 15 had an offense that could not get going till the end of the year. We know this. They definitely underwhelmed. They were very disappointing throughout their season, and then they hit it at the very end. Whereas 98 was very impressive the whole year, and then they had one bad game, right? I mean, we can agree on that. What I have two factors though. I think the defensive line from 2015 is just far superior to the offensive line of 1998 Ohio State Buckeyes. Um, the rest of the defense, I'll say, is a wash, and I think the offensive line does more than can hold its own against from 2015 can hold its own against the 98 defensive line. Rest of the defense is a wash. I think rest of the offenses possibly are a wash. Um, so really, I mean, it's just the line play I think is better in 15, and I do think that I got to give it to Urban Meyer over John Cooper at the end of the day. So I think 15 wins a very close game. Talent wise, though, these are very, very close teams. I mean, you look at the secondaries, like I cannot confidently say 2015 is a better secondary than 98. In fact, I probably would say 98 is a better secondary than 2015. And
Yeah.
2015 is a hell of a secondary. But you're talking Clements, Winfield, Plummer, Moore, Barry. Like that is a stacked defensive backfield as you're going to get. And then, you're throwing in Katzenmoyer and Niall Diggs and what was it, Radzinski. They had really good linebackers too. So yeah, I mean, it's not cut and dry anywhere. So I got to give it the lines. Got to give it the coaching. Another close game, but I think Urban beats Cooper in this one.
Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with. I was leaning 15. I think that probably 15 is slightly more talented. We just know where the issues were with 15, and it was squarely with the coaching staff. But you are correct. At the end of the day, when Urban wanted to win something, Urban, like that 98 loss was just such a like just. I mean, it cost him a run for another national title, and that I just think that once he kind of takes over, and it's like it's definitely it's this is how we're gonna do it, and it's my way, you know. And let's face it, the '98 team, those teams back then, the type of offense Ohio State running was just not a unique. it was just not an offense that was being ran in those mid 90s against. So the Ohio State defense, I think, would have, it would have been weird to them. Where I think the Ohio State 2015 team would have been still. I mean, the 98 style is still ran throughout 2000. So like, I think Ohio. I don't. It's just so weird to be able to have a guy like JT and Zeke and what they
Right.
both could do against you, and you still have a guy like Michael Thomas, and I think that they are just like, again, it's a close game just because they're so, close in talent and stuff like that. But I just think ultimately, like, you are right. Ohio State is better in the trenches in 2015. And I think that probably just ultimately is what pushes it over. And I think, those two guys in the backfield running the ball just are not going to be denied, just like they weren't denied against Michigan and they weren't denied against Notre Dame. And like, I just think that's where I'm kind of leaning on that one. So I agree with you that 15 is the better of the two and would win this game.
And it's so close that if I felt like the lines of 98 were better, I would say 98 would win this game. I mean, look at you got, Michael Wiley and Joe Montgomery. So that's, 2,000 yards or more between two people. Your receivers are D. Miller, David Boston, and Reggie Germany. Like, you have great John Lumpkins, your tight end. Like, you have great threats everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
if all things were equal, I probably would still give the edge to an urban team. But if they came out sleepwalking like they did for most of 2015, 98 could blow their doors off. I mean, that was a great team. I just think the lines are going to be the difference in this game. And that's why that cup, with Urban on top of it, I got to give 15 the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is definitely probably where the matchup where you really think that this is the one matchup where I really think coach on coach is really kind of where, like, Cooper is just so well known for blowing big games, and Urban, I mean, everybody likes to point out his bad losses, but Urban won most of the games that he was when he was usually equatable talent. Urban, a lot, he did not lose a lot of those games, so I just think that he wins those games.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
All right,
Finals is
we have
19 versus 15.
we have the same final, so you go ahead, man. What are you thinking?
I don't know better linebackers. I just don't think that's enough to carry them, even with Urban Meyer. Their offense isn't explosive enough in 2015. I mean, I love what Zeke can do, but I just think Dobbins adds a lot of, his own strengths. Um, I mean, I think it's a lot of places are washes here, right? Like, both have good offensive lines. 19 is probably a little bit better. Both have good defensive lines. Might give an overall talent edge to 15, even though maybe Chase Young's better than Joey Bosa. Linebackers is 15 for sure. Secondary, I'm going 19. I mean, I like the 2015 secondary a lot. I think 19's better. Quarterback play, I'm giving Fields over JT. He can do as much as JT, more passing the ball. Doesn't run, that same offense. Running backs probably Zeke. Receivers is going to be 19. So I think 19 is enough better, even though 15 had all those draft picks. Man, I'm saying 19 though. I'm going to give them a very close victory, but I just think it took 15. I don't know 15 can do enough offensively to win that game.
It's funny because that's exactly where I'm at now. Now here's the weird thing for me. So my head is telling me the 19 is the better team, but my heart is telling me that that eh, this is gonna come off weird. That Urban Meyer had just a different killer factor that I just don't know that Ryan Day has yet, and like that's kind of where my hold up is. That I'm like, part of me is like thinking like, you know that 2015 Ohio State team is going to be ready to go. If this is for the national title, this is all hands on deck. Win or die. Like
Mm-hmm.
that. This is a situation. I mean, Urban thrives in those situations, and like you can the lead up to this game is just crazy. Now, like I agree with everything you. I don't see anywhere where and I like JT and stuff like that. I just don't see where anywhere they don't have the receivers outside of Thomas that really think that they're gonna even remotely go up against this secondary. Even if Akuda versus Thomas is a wash the whole game where they both make plays, like you just who else are you gonna go to after that? And eventually, Fuller is gonna start,
Yeah.
being towards Thomas, and you're going to be going against a double team, and it's really a time where you think that okay, they are a real threat there where a double team could hurt them because the other receivers just that year, I mean they were good, they had some decent guys, they did not perform like you think about like the year before when they still had Devin Smith. When you both had if Devin Smith was still on this team, I'd be like, okay, I actually think 15 just with the urban factor is actually the better team just
Right.
because
And
it just
I think the OC too. I mean, like, there's just not any creative enough mind offensively that like this isn't working. This is going to be our adjustment. I mean, they're just going to keep banging their head in the wall against same level athletes. And I think Day is better that he would make adjustments to whatever Fickle and Ash are throwing at him. But at the same time, I feel like Fickle and Ash coached the defense better than what Halfley did, as crazy as that sounds, but there just weren't those types of breakdowns. Like Luke Fickle is the master of like, we'll make you earn anything possible, even out of our own base defense, Like his guys are well coached. He always has his guys in the right position. And when he left, I mean, we started getting breakdowns, not so much in 16, but after that, they started. Oh, he was still there in 16. Never mind. So after that point, there really started being breakdowns defensively that we never saw with Luke.
yeah, no, definitely agree. So
I still think it comes down they can't do enough offensively. I'm sticking to 2019.
I agree with that. I think that probably ultimately, like I know that the 15 teams probably like it kind of feels like in a weird way, even though I think 15 does better than like the 16 team against Clemson, because 15 actually does still have an offense where
They're a
16,
better team for sure. Yeah.
you know, but I think it's probably kind of feels like that 16 Clemson game is just a lot closer. Like, it's just I think that ultimately that the Ohio State 19 defense is good enough to, win that game, and the 19 offense just has just too many weapons at the end of the day, and the 15 offense is just going to have a hard time keeping up with it when you think about what the secondary being able to do and stuff like that. Um, Now, if the game is close and stuff like that, I'm going to agree with you. 19 wins. If the game is close throughout the game, though, there is a point in that later in that game that I think that JT and if we're running the ball, it still matters. That again, I think it's just something that the 19 defense didn't have to deal a lot with that year, and
That's
kind
true.
of hurt them and stuff when you kind of when you think about the Clemson and stuff like that. I mean, they did get hurt with stuff like that. I mean, I know a lot of it was passing to what's his face, the running back. Which can't think of it right now, but yeah, um, I mean, Zeke's just a different beast, and and stuff like that. So I agree with you. I think the 19 team is just at the end of the day, it's just better because I think that the 15 offense is just was so out of whack and stuff like that, but if it's a close game throughout the whole game, like there is a spot where I think, like, I don't know, at a point, Urban is still that guy, and
Oh yeah, for sure. And if Zeke's breaking off big runs, I'm saying 15's winning all day. Like if they can't stop Zeke, then that game doesn't
yeah,
matter. But it just they didn't have that till the last two games of the season.
yeah, yeah, that's true. All right, yep, I'll agree with you. So we're in agreement. 19 is the champ.
The overall champion of losers.
Yeah, they're the top second place. All right. All right. Anything else you wanna hit on before we get on out of here today?
No, just a quick one today. Probably gonna take a couple weeks off, right? Unless some big news happens.
Yeah, we'll probably, it's just in the weird part of the season, so we'll see if there's like a big transfer either way. If one of the big players decide to leave, or if we get somebody big, well, maybe we'll jump onto that, or something happens. But you know, yeah, we'll probably take a couple weeks off here to regroup and stuff. Uh, so yeah, let's call it a day.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping out today to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added, and please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.